Gradually, the images slow down, and you realize Thomas is watching himself play the game through a single lifetime that somehow spans across thousands of years. It quickly becomes apparent to you that he is trying to locate and fix a problem he created in the past, because he keeps saying over and over, causal seed, as past games flash back and forth, showing different scenarios. It seems as if he is trying to achieve a different outcome by going back in time and choosing an alternate path that would take him into a parallel reality. Unable to find an answer and completely exasperated, he focuses on a moment in time prior to being born into the game. To your surprise, you watch as the spirit world flashes onto the image, a vision of Thomas walking through a gorgeous park and talking with the most exquisite woman you have ever seen. She has thick, shiny black hair that falls to her waist, and a golden light encircling her head like a halo. Her hands and feet are adorned with jeweled rings and bracelets, and she wears a long flowing dress studded with emeralds and rubies that seem to light up from within, causing the dress to sparkle and glow as she moves at a walking pace, floating just above the ground. Her face is so beautiful and luminous, it seems as if a goddess from India has come to life.
Naya, I know what I want to accomplish, and in this lifetime I'm going to end all human suffering,
says Thomas wholeheartedly. Shaking her head gently, Naya says softly, Thomas, I understand your desire to choose a game lifetime that has the potential for you to understand how to navigate the program. But with power comes great responsibility, and as you know, you won't remember your original intentions. There's a much better chance that your newfound power will cause you to manipulate the program rather than try to benefit mankind. And if you do, you will become irrevocably disconnected from any feelings of empathy for your entire lifetime. Do you see the problem? Without empathy, you won't care what happens to anyone else. You'll make selfish decisions from your mind, not your heart. And you could very well create the opposite of what you're now intending.
But the game is an illusion,
says Thomas emphatically.
It's temporary. There are no victims or victimizers. There are only pre-game agreements that are fulfilled or unfulfilled. You yourself taught me that every action and reaction has a purpose. So what does it matter whether I disconnect from empathy or not? Nothing happens without a prior agreement, and even if there is unavoidable pain, suffering isn't necessary. It's always a choice.
Thomas, that's easy to say from the perspective of the spirit world with light shining all around, says Naya knowingly. But as you well know, suffering doesn't feel like a choice when you are the one suffering.
Well, that's true, and I should know,
says Thomas.
I have certainly had more than my fair share of suffering. All those lifetimes as a woman where I had plenty of empathy but no power,
says Thomas indignantly.
It didn't help me or anyone else. Just suffering and more suffering, and then there's childbirth, but I won't even get into that.
You burst out laughing, clap your hand over your mouth, and then remember Thomas has no idea you're there. Just the thought of Thomas choosing multiple lifetimes as a woman was enough to make your head spin. And though you know he had been a woman, you still have the image of him going through all of the inconveniences of pregnancy and childbirth as a man. It is the most entertaining thought you've had in a very long time. I understand what you're saying, says Naya kindly, but I'm talking about what your life will be like when you return to the spirit world after a lifetime with no empathy. You must remember, Thomas, you have never played a game where you're a man with power and authority. Whatever you believe and feel when you return will show up instantly, and you know nothing of the dark realms.
Really? How bad can it be? No one stays there forever. Everyone can change their minds at any time. People are rehabilitated all the time. There's a hospital right over there, he says, nodding to a gleaming building just across a sparkling lake at the opposite end of the park. Yes, but before anyone is brought to the hospital, they must have a willing change of heart. And sometimes people would rather be right than happy for very, very long periods of time, says Naya thoughtfully. I know I'm taking a chance on this, but I've spent over 100 years in Earth time researching the game program, as well as past games I've played, and I'm certain I can change what's happening on Earth. I've even devised a way to stay alive in a human body, mine or someone else's, for as long as it takes to get the right outcome. And I'm not talking about a longer life. I'm talking about being able to stay for hundreds or thousands of years.
Staying in human form for longer periods of time is not necessarily better. There's a very good reason players have short lifetimes and fully disconnect from their avatar body. You need time away from the illusion to learn from your mistakes and to assimilate new solutions before you return and play again. A fresh start and a new body can be very helpful, even if you are required to forget.
But in the end, we're just talking about two different experiences, because the entire program is an illusion, a very convincing one, but still an illusion that's no more powerful than a dream. Of course, most people dream unconsciously, but there are lucid dreamers who know how to wake up inside the dream, and then they use their thoughts and feelings to manipulate what's happening. I'll have the ability to be fully aware that I'm living in an illusion, a waking dream, if you will. And that awareness will allow me to manipulate the entire program and help everyone on Earth.
It's a very slippery slope, Thomas, says Naya with a penetrating gaze.
Well, isn't the whole idea behind the game to sally forth where no man has gone before, while making colossal mistakes along the way?
Says Thomas jovially.
How else will everyone in the universe be able to sit back, watch the games we play, and know what not to do? How else will they come up with answers if we, the game players, don't create new problems to be solved? My idea is to find a way that we can create and solve problems without suffering.
It takes a moment for you to fully connect with the idea that this is Thomas talking. He is funny, light-hearted, and to your amazement, joyful. More like a person planning a trip to a theme park than someone contemplating a lifetime on Earth. I agree with you, Thomas, and many players share the same sentiment. But this brings us full circle back to the original problem. You will have a full mental understanding of the program, but you will lack empathy. It isn't just a matter of what you will do for others. What happens to you is just as important, especially when you exit the game.
I know I'll probably lose my ability to feel empathy, but I'll be able to feel love. And combined with my knowledge, I think there's a very good chance I can create a world without suffering.
Thomas, You have never managed to do that for yourself in any of your lifetimes. Remember rule number 1. If it doesn't work, stop doing it. What makes you think you could accomplish this for everyone playing on Earth when you haven't even managed it for yourself?
Well, we know that the program causes energy to slow down and appear as matter, according to the feelings of each player, which means each player creates their own world, their own reality,
says Thomas.
The illusion only exists when players see energy moving very, very slowly and perceive it as physical reality. However, perception is not the truth. There's a greater truth that's not subject to perception, and it runs the program. You see, most computer programs have a back door created by the architect, but the game program is just the opposite. The back door is the program itself. I've been thinking about this, and there's a way that I could alter the program so that it's more like the spirit world. Like-minded players playing together rather than a few players dominating the rest.
Thomas pauses for a moment. Go on, says Naya with the faintest hint of a smile. Enthusiastically, Thomas continues.
Energy is the combination of universal intelligence and universal love, which creates, connects, and is everything, including the game program itself. The game is programmed to cause a feeling of separation. How else could a player have an experience? If you know and love everything that has ever happened or ever will happen, nothing new can occur. There would never be the feeling of expansion or growth or creativity. So players perceive intelligence and love as two separate energies, and spend each game period trying to put the two back together. So, as I was saying, the program itself is the back door. You don't have to hunt around for the back door or figure out a special passcode. The program is pure energy, and it responds to resonant frequencies, just like a crystal glass humming along with a particular sound.
All right, Thomas, says Naya, but tell me, how do you get the program to hum along with you?
Well, it's something you always tell me between lifetimes,
says Thomas, grinning. Naya smiles. If you would only love more,
all limitations in your life would vanish,
says Thomas, finishing the statement. And how will that help you when you can't remember it? Says Naya thoughtfully.
Well, like I said, the program itself is the back door, so you don't have to know anything about it. Every player has access to it at all times, but of course we forget everything. So I just have to have a compelling reason to love, and then I could work around my lack of empathy problem.
All right, I'm listening. What's your plan? Says Naya supportively.
In my research, I've discovered a game where I can be a high priest who learns how to perfectly navigate the program, to the point that I could even manipulate it, with love, of course.
Thomas adds quickly. Did you research all of the variables as well? Says Naya.
Yes, and you're right, the failure rate, at least in regard to my plan, is about 99.999%.
He says, rolling his eyes in acknowledgement of Naya's warnings.
But here's my idea. I will have a daughter that I dearly love, and to be sure of that, I have picked someone who I have loved in every game we've ever played, no matter what parts we've played. And she has always loved me as well. Of course, other things have gone wrong,
Thomas admits, knowing it is a complete understatement.
but I really believe this will work. Even though I won't feel empathy, I will consistently and powerfully be feeling love. I can't help but love her more and more as she grows up. And when a player loves like that, the resonant frequency in the avatar body will oscillate with the program, automatically overriding all limitations,
says Thomas, so proud of himself he's practically glowing. Thomas, you seem to be forgetting all the things that can go wrong. You're planning to play a game as a wealthy, powerful man in ancient Egypt. You've never lived in that time period. You can't possibly know how you will react. On top of that, you were talking about loving a child. Yes, that kind of love can last a lifetime, but human emotions can change. Children change. They grow up. They move away. They can disappoint you, and you don't know how you will feel when that happens.
I know, but that's not going to happen. I've already taken everything into account. I have contracts with everyone I'll be playing with as well. So there are certain things I know will happen,
says Thomas with the enthusiasm of a child on Christmas morning. Patiently, Naya says, every time you've played as a man, you have plans to enlighten all of humanity, and then your ego kicks in. Someone does something you don't like, or something happens that you can't control, and you suddenly feel separate and disconnected. And you feel this so powerfully, your experiences go from bad to worse, as the program quickly and powerfully outpictures the intensity of what you feel.
I know I've made mistakes in the past, but I've learned from them,
says Thomas earnestly.
I've calculated the perfect time to go back and to make changes. My idea will change everything. I even have more than one alternate ending. And yes, there's a chance it won't work. But what if it does work? The alterations to the program would stop human suffering. I could make the game fun again,
says Thomas, smiling hopefully.
Naya, think about the real purpose of the game. It is designed to make us forget who we are. How much adventure could you have? How courageous would you be if you knew there was nothing to fear? People who want to play it safe stay here in the spirit world. They go to concerts and paint and write poetry. They never have to worry about ending up in the dark realms because they never go anywhere or do anything challenging. Game players are the cosmic, badass renegades of the entire universe,
says Thomas, laughing.
We don't go to Earth to play it safe. We don't go there afraid of screwing things up.
All right, Thomas. Imagine you have manipulated the program and created this perfect world you're aiming for. People love each other. They play with other like-minded players. Everyone shares the bounty of Earth equally and fairly. There is no lack and you have no limitations. Everything and everyone is in perfect balance. Love prevails. Now, given eternity, how long would it take for you to get bored? How long would it take before you wanted a challenge?
Not long, given eternity,
says Thomas thoughtfully. That's why I'm telling you, again, you don't need to fix the game. The program isn't broken. It works exactly as it was intended to work. Smiling warmly, Thomas says,
I do thank you for your advice, Naya. Your words of wisdom are always something I take to heart,
he adds, putting his hand to the middle of his chest.
But I'm sure you know I've already made up my mind.
Yes, of course, Thomas, says Naya, smiling affectionately. You are indeed a cosmic renegade, and you have a beautiful, kind, and strong heart. As you can see, she admits graciously, I am one to stay securely in the spirit world and give advice. I'm happy to leave all of the audacious experience to badass adventurers like yourself. Instantly the scene disappears. Thomas is back in his chair contemplating what he had just seen. Then a holographic image appears as if responding to his thoughts and shows Thomas playing out the lifetime he has been so eagerly anticipating. Everything goes as planned. As predicted, his ability to feel empathy is no match compared to his desire for power, but that is not unusual for an imposing high-born man in ancient Egypt, and clearly it doesn't slow down his progress. He is rich, brilliant, charismatic, and very well connected. After his marriage, and with their combined fortunes, Thomas becomes one of the wealthiest, most influential men in Egypt. When his young wife dies in childbirth, just 9 months after their wedding, she leaves him with a healthy, beautiful baby girl, and that is all he really wanted. He doesn't remember why he wanted a daughter so badly, nor does he question his utter devotion to her. Standing quietly next to Thomas, you watch as the years pass quickly, and though you don't focus upon any specific point in time, you can see the energy exchange between Thomas and his daughter, and it is just as loving and pure as he had predicted. His life is going better than he could possibly have planned, and you wonder if maybe he's right. Maybe there's something his daughter can teach him about loving and caring for others. Then the images slow down, and you see Thomas's teenage daughter, Juliana, standing on a balcony looking out over the ocean. She is a tall, stunningly beautiful and graceful young woman with vivid green eyes and long wavy auburn hair. And then a sudden, shocking recognition sweeps over you as you realize you yourself had played the part of Juliana in that lifetime.